right. This is a Harry Potter Read Aloud, May 13th, 2020. Today we are going to read Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. Last week we read about Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. And what was Norbert?
He was a half-man horse.
Pass.
I was thinking about him because he was in the...
Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback.
That dragon.
The dragon, thank you. The dragon that the whole chapter was about. And Ron's older brother Charlie had his friend pick him up because he's too big for Hagrid to take care of anymore, and they got caught. So we're gonna find out what their punishment is. Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. Things couldn't have been worse. Built where they sat without saying a word to each other. Hermione was trembling, excuses, allies, and wild stories chased each other on Harry's brain. Each more fearful than the last. He could see how they were going down in the corner. After they had been so stupid, and they had clothes. There was days on earth Professor McGonagall would accept their being out of bed and around the school that night, let alone being out of the tallest strong tower without bounds and classes, and nor visibility clothes, and might have been packing their bags already. Every things couldn't have worse was wrong. When Professor McGonagall appeared, she was leading no. Harry! No, the moment he saw the other two. I heard enough to catch you. He said, Harry shook his head violently to shovel up. McGonagall had seen. She looked more likely to breathe fire than Norbert as she towered over the three of them. I don't believe any of it. Thank you, Mrs. Filch, funny power. Explain yourself. First time I shared her slippers is still a statue. I got a good idea of what's going on here, said Professor McGonagall. It doesn't take a genius to work it out. You fed Draco Malfoy some fucking bullshit about a dragon trying to get another thing in trouble. I already caught him here for the story. I tried to tell him without words isn't true, because Neville was looking down at her. Her blundering Neville, Harry knew us in the try in the dark, warned them. I'm disgusted. Professor McGonagall. Students at bed in one night. I never heard of such a thing before. I thought you had more sense. You, Mr. Potter, more to you than this. All three of you will receive detentions. Yes, you do, long one. Especially these days. It's very dangerous. Take it from Gryffindor. 50 gaps. They lose the lead. The lead won a match. 50 points each. McGonagall breathed heavily through her long pointed nose. You can't. Don't tell me what I can't do, Potter. I'll get back at all of you. I've never been more ashamed of Gryffindor students. 50 points lost. That will put Gryffindor in that place. One night, Harry thought his nose. Bottom had dropped out of his stomach. How could they ever make up this? Harry didn't sleep all night. He could hear Neville falling into his pillow for worse. Harry couldn't think anything to say to comfort him. He knew Neville, like himself, was the one. What would happen when the rest of Gryffindor about what they'd done? At first, Gryffindor passed the giant arrow when the house was a mistake. How could they suddenly have a 150 and then the story started to spread. Harry Potter, famous Harry Potter, 2 matches, had lost them all those points. The couple of student first years. Being one of those popular and admired people at the school, Harry was suddenly the student. Even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff for him because everyone had longed to see Slytherin lose the house up. Everywhere Harry went, people pointed in trouble to lure their voices at him and felt him. He walked past them, whistling and cheering. Father, we have won. Only Ron stood by him. They'll all forget this in a few weeks. Fred and George have lost those points in all time they've been here, and people still like them. And Harry miserably. Oh no, Ron admitted. It was too late to repair damage. Harry swore himself not to know things that were his business from now on. He had it sitting around and sighing. He was so ashamed of himself. He went to wood and offered to resign from the team. Resign, Wood muttered. What will that do? How are we going to get back and get rid? He would have lost the fun. He wouldn't speak to Harry or practice. If they speak about him, they called him the listener. Hermione were not going to do. They didn't have a time Harry because they were on him, but nobody would speak them either. Hermione stopped drawing attention to herself in class, keeping her head in silence. Harry was glad to see he was far away. All the vision he had kept his mind for his misery. One line kept the cells, working late at night, measuring the ingredients in complicated arms the cells apart, memorized the dates of medical discoveries, goblin rebellions. And a week before the exam was due to start, Harry's resolution to anything that didn't concern him was done at the task. Walking back to the library on his own one afternoon, he heard somebody from class up ahead. As he drew closer, heard Quirrell's voice. No, not again, please. It sounded as though someone threatening him. Harry moved closer. All right, he heard Quirrell sob. Next second, Quirrell came hurrying out of the classroom, straight into him. He was about to cry. He strode at the seat. Harry didn't even notice him. He waited in Quirrell's steps and stared at the classroom. It was dark at the other end. Harry was towards the door. Was happy before what he promised himself about Melee. All the same, he had been able to walk through his stones. The snake had just left the room, and from what he had just heard, Snake would be walking through the spring in his step. Quirrell seemed to have given in at last. Harry went back to the library, where Hermione was sitting Ron on a shawny. Harry told them what he heard. "It's done then," said Ron, and Quirrell's not break as he had to force it out. "They're so fluffy," said Hermione. Maybe Snake found out how to get past him without asking Hagrid. Look at the thousands of books surrounding them. I bet the books somewhere telling how to get past a three-headed dog. So I bet she was saying again and Ron cried, but Hermione answered before Harry could. "Go to Dumbledore. That's what we should have done ages ago. If we try anything ourselves, we'll be thrown out for sure." "But we've got no proof," said Harry. "Quirrell's too scared to back us up. Snape's only got to say he doesn't know how the troll got in at Halloween and that he was nowhere near the third floor. Who do you think they'll believe, him or us? It's not exactly a secret. We hate him, Dumbledore will think. We made it up to get him sacked. Filch wouldn't help us if his life depended on it. He's too friendly with Snape, and the more students get thrown out, the better he'll think. And don't forget, we're not supposed to know about the stone or Fluffy. That'll take a lot of explaining." Hermione looked convinced, but Ron didn't. My favorite, Professor Minerva McGonagall. Love her. "If we just do a little bit of poking around." "No," said Harry flatly. "We've done enough poking around." He pulled a map of Jupiter towards him and started to learn the names of all its moons. Cass, do you have a question?
For some reason, I think that Snape, the guy who teaches potions, I forget his name, but yeah, Snape. I kind of think that he's actually secretly Baltimore in disguise.
What makes you think that?
Because he's all evil, and all the other teachers are more like gentle to him. But like Snape hates him no matter what. Even on his first day, even on Harry's first day, Snape was being hard.
You're not wrong. Keep that in mind. The following morning, notes were delivered to Harry, Hermione, and Neville at the breakfast table. They were all the same. "Your detention will take place at 11 o'clock tonight. Meet Mr. Filch in the entrance hall. Professor M. McGonagall." Harry had forgotten they still had detentions to do in the furor over the points they'd lost. He half expected Hermione to complain that this was a whole night of revision lost, but she didn't say a word. Like Harry, she felt they deserved what they got. At 11 o'clock that night, they said goodbye to Ron in the common room and went down to the entrance hall with Neville. Filch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry had also forgotten that Malfoy had got a detention too. "Follow me," said Filch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside. "I bet you'll think twice about breaking a school rule again, won't you?" he continued, leering at them. Oh yes, hard work and pain are the best teachers if you ask me. It's just a pity they won't let the old punishments die out. Hang you by your wrist from the ceiling for a few days. I've got the chain still in my office. Keep 'em well oiled in case they're ever needed. Right off we go, and don't think of running off now. It'll be worse for you if you do. They marched off across the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible, or Filch wouldn't be sounding so delighted. The moon was bright, but clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. Ahead, Harry could see the lighted windows of Hagrid's hut. Then they heard a distant shout. Is that you, Filch? Hurry up, I want to get started. Harry's heart rose. If they were going to be working with Hagrid, it wouldn't be so bad. His relief must have showed in his face, because Filch said, I suppose you think you'll be enjoying yourself with that oaf. Well, then again, boy, it's into the forest you're going, and I'm much mistaken if you'll come out in one piece. Yes, Cass.
I think this is whenever you first see Voldemort, cause in the video, Voldemort, man horse.
We'll see. At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his tracks. The forest, he repeated, and he didn't sound quite as cool as usual. We can't go in there at night. There's all sorts of things in there. Werewolves, I've heard. Neville clutched the sleeve of Harry's robe and made a choking noise. That's your lookout, isn't it? Said Filch, his voice cracking with glee. Should have thought of them werewolves before you got in trouble, shouldn't you? Hagrid came striding towards them out of the dark, Fang at his heel. He was carrying his large crossbow, and a quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder. About time, he said. I've been waiting for half an hour already. All right, Harry, Hermione. I shouldn't be too friendly to them, Hagrid, said Filch coldly. They're here to be punished, after all. That's why you're late, isn't it? Said Hagrid, frowning at Filch. Been lecturing them, eh? It's not your place, to do that. You've done your bit. I'll take over from here. I'll be back at dawn, said Filch, for what's left of them, he added nastily, and he turned and started back towards the castle, his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy now turned to Hagrid. I'm not going in that forest, he said, and Harry was pleased to hear the note of panic in his voice. Yeah, or if ye want to stay at Hogwarts, said Hagrid fiercely. You've done wrong, and you've got to pay for it. But this is servant stuff. It's not for students to do. I thought we'd be writing lines or something. If my father knew I was doing this, he'd tell you that's how it is at Hogwarts, Hagrid growled. Written lines? What's good that to anyone? You'll do something useful or you get out. If you think your father rather you expelled, then get off to the castle and pack. Go on. Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid furiously, but then dropped his gaze. Right then, said Hagrid. Now listen carefully, because it's dangerous what we're going to do tonight, and I don't want no one taking risks. Follow me over here a moment. He led them to the very edge of the forest. Holding his lamp up high, he pointed down a narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick black trees. A light breeze lifted their hair as they looked into the forest. Look there, said Hagrid. See that stuff shining on the ground? Silvery stuff? That's unicorn blood. There's a unicorn in there, been hurt badly by someone. This is the second time in a week. I found one dead last Wednesday. We're going to try and find the poor thing. We might have to put it out of its misery. And what if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first, said Malfoy, unable to keep the fear out of his voice. There's nothing that lives in the forest that'll hurt you if you're with me or Fang, said Hagrid, and keep to the path. Right now, we're going to split into two parties and follow the trail in different directions. There's blood all over the place. That's Hogwarts. And then this is the Forbidden Forest with a unicorn. Iridescent glow of a unicorn. Let me finish the sentence, Cass, and then I'll call on you. There's blood all over the place. It must have been staggering around since last night at least. Yes, Cass.
I think we should try the drag snake. He's being super mean. Why would he be so happy sending kids into a dangerous forest at night?
Filch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drag.
I want Fang, said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. All right, but I warn you, he's a coward, said Hagrid. So me, Harry, and Hermione will go one way, and Draco, Neville, and Fang will go the other. Now, if any of us finds the unicorn, we'll send up green sparks, right? Get your wands out and practice now. That's it. And if anyone gets in trouble, send up red sparks. And we'll all come and find you, so be careful. Let's go. The forest was black and silent. A little way into it, they reached a fork in the earth path, and Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid took the left path, while Malfoy, Neville, and Fang took the right. They walked in silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then a ray of moonlight through the branches above lit a spot of silver-blue blood on the fallen leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid looked very worried. Could a werewolf be killing the unicorns? Harry asked. Not fast enough, said Hagrid. It's not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creatures. I never knew one to be hurt before. They walked past a mossy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be a stream somewhere close by. There were still spots of unicorn blood here and there along the winding path. You all right, Hermione? Hagrid whispered. Don't worry, it can't have gotten far. If it's this badly hurt, they'll be able to get behind that tree. Hagrid seized Harry and Hermione and hoisted them off the path behind the towering oak. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it into his crossbow, raising it, ready to fire. The three of them listened. Something was slithering over dead leaves nearby. It sounded like a cloak trailing along the ground. Hagrid was squinting up the dark path, but after a few seconds, the sound faded away. I knew it, he murmured. There's someone in there that shouldn't be. A werewolf? Harry asked. That wasn't no werewolf, and it was no unicorn either, said Hagrid grimly. Right, follow me, but careful now. They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved. Who's there? Hagrid called. Show yourself. I'm armed. And in the clearing came. Was it a man or a horse? To the waist, a man with red hair and beard. But below that was a horse's gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione's jaws dropped. Oh, it's you, Ronan, said Hagrid in relief. How are ye? He walked forward and shook the centaur's hand. Good evening to you, Hagrid, said Ronan, and he had a deep, sorrowful voice. Were you going to shoot me? Can't be too careful, Ronan, said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. There's something bad loose in the forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way. Students up at the school. And this is Ronan, you two. He's a centaur. We'd noticed, said Hermione faintly. Good evening, said Ronan. Students, are you? And do you learn much up at that school? A bit, said Hermione timidly. A bit? Well, that's something, Ronan sighed. He flung back his head and stared at the sky. Mars is bright tonight. Yeah, said Hagrid, glancing up too. Listen, I'm glad we've run into ye. Ronan, 'cause that's a unicorn been hurt. You seen anything? Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upwards and sighed again. Always the innocent are the first victims, he said. So it has been for ages past. So it is now. Yes, said Hagrid, but have you seen anything, Rowan? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight, Ronan repeated while Hagrid watched him impatiently. Unusually bright. Yeah, but I wasn't meaning anything unusual a bit nearer home, said Hagrid. So you haven't noticed anything strange? Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last he said, The forest hides many secrets. A movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second centaur, black-haired and bodied, and wilder looking than Ronan. Hello, Bane, said Hagrid. All right. Good evening, Hagrid. I hope you are well. Well enough. Look, I've just been asking Ronan, you see. Anything odd in here lately? Only there's a unicorn been injured. Would you know anything about that? Bane walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skywards. Mars is bright tonight, he said simply. We've heard, said Hagrid grumpily. Well, if either of you do see anything, let me know, won't ye? We'll be off then. Harry and Hermione followed him out of the clearing, staring over their shoulders at Ronan and Bane until the trees blocked their view. Never, said Hagrid irritably. Try and get a straight answer out of the centaur. Ruddy stargazers, not interested in anything closer in the moon. Are there many of them in here? Asked Hermione. Oh, a fair few. Keep themselves to themselves mostly, but they're good enough about turning up if I ever want a word. They're deep-minded centaurs. They know things. Just don't let on much. Do you think that a centaur we heard earlier? Said Harry. Did that sound like hooves to you? Nah. If you ask me, that's what's been killing the unicorns. Never heard anything like it before. They walked on through the dense, dark trees. Harry kept looking nervously over his shoulder. He had the nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad they had Hagrid and his crossbow with them. They had just passed a bend in the path when Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arm. Hagrid, look, red sparks. The others are in trouble. You two wait here, Hagrid shouted. Stay on the path. I'll come back for you. They heard him crashing away through the undergrowth and stood looking at each other, very scared, until they couldn't hear anything but the rustling of the leaves around them. You don't think they've been hurt, do you? Whispered Hermione. I don't care if Malfoy has, but if something's got Neville, it's our fault he's here in the first place. The minutes dragged by. Their ears seemed sharper than usual. Harry seemed to be picking up every sigh of the wind, every cracking twig. What was going on? Where were the others? At last, a great crunching noise announced Hagrid's return. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was fuming. Malfoy, it seemed, had sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him for a joke. Neville had panicked and sent up the sparks. We'll be lucky to catch anything now with the racket you two are making. Right, we're changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Harry, you go with Fang and this idiot. I'm sorry, Hagrid added in a whisper to Harry, but he'll have a harder time frightening you, and we've got to get this done. So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked for nearly half an hour, deeper and deeper into the forest, until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes on the roots of a tree, as though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. Harry could see a clearing ahead, through the tangled branches of an ancient oak. Look, he murmured, holding out his arm to stop Malfoy. Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was the unicorn, all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out at odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread pearly white on the dark leaves. Harry had taken one step towards it when a slithering sound made him freeze where he stood. A bush on the edge of the clearing quivered. Then out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. The cloaked figure reached the unicorn. It lowered its head over the wound in the animal's side and began to drink its blood. Ah! Malfoy let out a terrible scream and bolted. So did Fang. The hooded figure raised its head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dribbling down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly towards him. He couldn't move for fear. Then a pain pierced his head like he'd never felt before. It was as though his scar was on fire. Half blinded, he staggered backwards. He heard hooves behind him galloping, and something jumped clean over him, charging at the figure. The pain in Harry's head was so bad he fell to his knees. It took a minute or two to pass. When he looked up, the figure had gone. A centaur was standing over him, not Ronan or Bane. This one looked younger. He had white blonde hair and a palomino body. Are you all right? Said the centaur, pulling Harry to his feet. Yes, thank you. What was that? The centaur didn't answer. He had astonishingly blue eyes, like pale sapphires. He looked carefully at Harry, his eyes lingering on the scar which stood out, livid, on Harry's forehead. You are the Potter boy, he said. You had better get back to Hagrid. The forest is not safe at this time, especially for you. Can you ride? It will be quicker this way. My name is Ferenz, he added, as he lowered himself onto his front legs so that Harry could clamber onto his back. There was suddenly a sound of more galloping from the other side of the clearing. Ronan and Bane came bursting through the trees, their flanks heaving and sweaty. Firenze, Bane thundered. What are you doing? You have a human on your back. Have you no shame? Are you a common mule? Do you realize who this is? Said Firenze. This is the Potter boy. The quicker he leaves this forest, the better. What have you been telling him? Growled Bane. Remember, Firenze, we are sworn not to set ourselves against the heavens. Have we not read what is to come in the movements of the planets? Ronan pawed the ground nervously. I'm sure Firenze thought he was acting for the best, he said in his gloomy voice. Bane kicked his back legs in anger. For the best? What has that to do with us? Centaurs are concerned with what has been foretold. It's not our business to run around like donkeys after stray humans on our forest. Firenze suddenly reared onto his hind legs in anger, so that Harry had to grab his shoulders to stay on. Do you not see that unicorn? Firenze bellowed at Bane. Do you not understand why it was killed? Or have the plants not let you in on that secret? I set myself against what is lurking in this forest. Bane, yes, with humans alongside me if I must. And Firenze whisked around, with Harry clutching on as best he could. They plunged off into the trees, leaving Ronan and Bane behind them. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. Why is Bane so angry? He asked. What was that thing you saved me from anyway? Firenze slowed to a walk, warned Harry to keep his head bowed in case of lower hanging branches, but did not answer Harry's question. They had made their way through the trees in silence for so long that Harry thought Firenze didn't want to talk to him any more. They were passing through a particularly dense patch of trees, however, when Firenze suddenly stopped. Harry Potter, do you know what unicorn blood is used for? No, said Harry, startled by the odd question. We've only used the horn and the tail and hair in potions. That is because it is a monstrous thing to slay a unicorn, said Firenze. Only one who has nothing to lose and everything to gain would commit such a crime. The blood of a unicorn will keep you alive, even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. You have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will have but a half-life, a cursed life, from the moment that blood touches your lips. Harry stared back at the back of Firenze's head, which was dabbled silver in the moonlight. But who'd be that desperate, he wondered aloud. If you're going to be cursed forever, death's better, isn't it? It is, Firenze agreed, unless all you need to stay alive long enough to drink something else, something that will bring you back to full strength and power, something that will mean you can never die. Mr. Potter, do you know what is hidden in the school at this very moment? The Sorcerer's Stone. Of course, the elixir of life, but I don't understand who. Can you think of nobody who has waited many years to return to power, who has clung to life, awaiting their chance? It was as though an iron fist had clenched suddenly around Harry's heart. Over the rustling of the trees, he seemed to hear once more what Hagrid had told him on the night they had met. Some say he died. Codswallop, in my opinion. Don't know if he had enough human left in him to die. Do you mean, Harry croaked, that was Harry, are you all right? Hermione was running towards them down the path, Hagrid puffing along behind her. I'm fine, said Harry, hardly knowing what he was saying. The unicorn's dead. Hagrid, it's in the clearing back there. This is where I leave you, Firenze murmured as Hagrid hurried off to examine the unicorn. You are safe now. Harry slid off his back. Good luck, Harry Potter, said Firenze. The planets have been read wrongly before now, even by centaurs. I hope this is one of those times. He turned and cantered back into the depths of the forest, leaving Harry shivering behind him. Ron had fallen asleep in the dark common room, waiting for them to return. He shouted something about Quidditch fouls when Harry roughly shook him awake. In a matter of seconds, though, he was wide-eyed as Harry began to tell him and Hermione what had happened in the forest. Harry couldn't sit down. He paced up and down in front of the fire. He was still shaking. Snape wants the stone for Voldemort, and Voldemort's waiting in the forest. And all this time we thought Snape just wanted to get rich. Stop saying the name, said Ron in a terrified whisper, as if he thought Voldemort could hear them. Harry wasn't listening. Fran saved me, but he shouldn't have done. Bane was furious. He was talking about interfering with the planets. Say is going to happen. They must show that Baltimore's coming back. Bane thinks Fran should have let Baltimore killed me. I suppose it's written in the stars as well. Will you stop saying the name? Ron hissed. So all I've got to wait for now is Snape to steal the stone, Harry went on feverishly. Then Baltimore will be able to come and finish me off. Well, I suppose Bane will be happy. Hermione looked very frightened, but she had a word of comfort. Harry, everyone says Dumbledore's the only one you know who was ever afraid of. With Dumbledore around, you know who won't touch you. Anyway, who says the centaurs are right? It sounds like fortune-telling to me, and Professor McGonagall said that's a very impressive branch of magic. The sky had turned light before they stopped talking. They went to bed exhausted, their throats sore, but the night surprises weren't over. When Harry pulled back his sheets, he found his invisibility cloak folded neatly underneath them. There was a note pinned to it, just in case. Next week is chapter 16, Look Through the Trap Door, and that will be, I don't know if I'm going to leave you with the cliffhanger. So next week we might have an hour-long read aloud and finish Harry Potter. Because that would be a cliffhanger if we stopped at 16. Yes, Cass.
I was kind of close about Filch being Voldemort, about Snape being Voldemort, right? Voldemort, right?
I'm not telling you anything. You're gonna have to wait and see.
I was kind of close, right?
I'm not telling you anything. You gotta wait and see.
Okay.
You'll find out next week. We're gonna finish Harry Potter next week, guys.
Then I can watch the movie!
All right. Have a great day, guys.